Hello and welcome to the Gazette's weekly Hockey Inside Out show with the Canadiens headed to the Eastern Conference Final against the Carolina Hurricanes. I'm Stu Cowan of the Gazette and I'm joined by my regular partners here, former Canadiens teammates and 1986 Stanley Cup champs, Chris Nilan and Rick Green. Guys, what a Game 7 that was against the Sabres Monday night in Buffalo with Alex Newhook scoring the winning goal in overtime for a 3-2 victory. The Canadiens now meet the Hurricanes in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final Thursday night in Carolina. Knuckles, what impressed you most about the Canadiens in Game 7 against the Sabres, and how was your heart watching that?
It was pounding, obviously. Listen, they get out of there with a win. I feel like, honestly, it kind of felt like at times like you're in one of them soccer stampedes where everybody's going to get run over and you survive it. You know, oh my God. And, you know, I just... God, the second period, they got that lead, and it's almost like they just sat back. And they weren't pursuing the puck. They weren't skating. And then I'll bring it up again in their own end of the rink. And Dobes had to stand on his head again, which is great. It's great to have a goaltender that can do that. But, boy, listen, they end up winning. They pulled it off. But that catches up with you. You know, you can't continue to play like that in your own end, the confusion, the chaos, and, you know, have to rely on the goalie because it's going to catch you on nights. Look what happened at home in Game 6. And listen, Game 7 is what mattered. I get it. They scored the goal. But, listen, they tie the game. They come out in overtime, and they look like the team that was we saw when they were playing well. They're pursuing the puck. They're on top. They got the forecheck going. All those things. And, you know, when you don't, God, for second and the third period the ice was tilted. And, you know, thank God they pulled it off. Regroup, get a little rest, and get ready to go again.
Well, Rick, they had 11 shots in the first period of the Canadiens, and they had 11 shots combined in the next two periods. You know, Marty likes to say play the game in front of you, but it seems when they get a 2-goal lead, they just sit back. I mean, they did it in Game 6 when they were up 3-1. They did it again. Is that just players doing it or coaches telling them to do it? How do you explain that they keep doing that?
It's really tough to put your finger on it because they're good at giving up, leads. And I think everybody got pretty excited when they got up 2-0 and the way that they were playing. I mean, look at Anderson on the, Danault's goal off the forecheck. They were strong on the boards. They were getting pucks chipped out of the blue line, chipped in. And they were doing a lot of the details of the game really well. And then all of a sudden, like in Game 6, starting the second period, it's just like they were sitting back and watching, and they were always second on the puck, and they were doing all the things that they forgot that gave them success before. And that's an area of concern, obviously, that they were able to pull out a win with the way that they were playing, because there were breakdowns, and it was, situations where they've been better at defensive zone, offensive zone, creativity, all those things that they're usually pretty good at. They weren't able to get that in the last two periods, and they were lucky to pull that one off. And thank goodness Dobes was in net there and doing what he does, and that's making the big saves at the good time. And we were very much stressed watching that one.
Well, St. Louis, Knuckles, before Game 7, he said it's about finding a way. It's not about being perfect. It's about finding a way. They were far from perfect after that lead, but how does this team just keep finding a way? It's quite remarkable, actually.
Yeah, listen, I don't expect them to be perfect. I don't. But when you look at the way they play in their own end of the rink, like, God. And like Rick said, they get that lead, and then they sit back. They don't forecheck. They're not on top of the puck. Let's give Buffalo some credit. They pushed the pace. They came through the neutral zone. The Habs would come down the second, third period. They come down. The puck would go in, right out, one long pass. They gave up the blue line like nothing, and then they get in their own end of the rink, and it's chaos again. And, the tying goal. Bolduc is trying to go out. He takes the inside route. Go outside of that guy. Force him down the wall. You don't want him to step into the middle. He steps to the middle. He's on the weak side. He can't get him. And then, Kirby had a tough time getting outside on Dowling. He was trying to compensate for Bolduc being on the weak side, and he went down to block a shot. And once he kind of went down a little bit, then he was stuck. He couldn't get outside on him, He's trying to cover up for someone else's mistake on that one-on-one coverage. And if you don't contain that guy you're covering, it's going to break down somewhere. And we saw numerous breakdowns in that game. And, yeah, they found a way. That's great. I'm happy for them. I am. That's, listen, are they going to win the Cup this year? Who knows? But that's an area if they don't fix it, there's just no way they'll do it.
Rick, I mean, they're coming up close to 100 games this season and still that confusion. Is that just because that man-on-man system is just confusing the play?
Well, to me, it's a little more difficult because you're going to get breakdowns and you're going to get guys that are chasing their guy to try and identify him and get a hold of him and say, I got my man. And meanwhile, there's other situations that are playing out that are more dangerous. And this is the line between, for me to understand that when there is breakdowns, you come back and kind of stop in an area and protect those critical scoring areas, and then you work your way from the middle out. But that's not what they're told to do. And there are breakdowns. And look at the opposition. Tampa did the same thing. You bring your defenseman into the cycles. You become very active in exchanging and, causing confusion, if you will. And Lindy Ruff said that they want to cause confusion through a lot of cycling and a lot of, interchanges of defensemen and forwards. And hopefully they'll eventually, show up as good scoring opportunities, and they have. And it's an area of concern, and they know it, and they have to try and find a way to fix that up, because if they're chasing and they're running all over their zone, it's tiring. Mm-hmm. And, they get tired out there, and you can see it coming that they're either going to score or get a good scoring chance because they're running around and exhausted, trying to find their guy and trying to eliminate their guy. So,
yeah, Rick, you're right there. And again, those interchanges, they'll have a forward down in front of the net with a D-man, and he pulls up to the blue line, and they interchange with a D-man, and you got a defenseman up at the blue line, and you got a guy bolting down, that the defenseman bolting down to the net, trying to get open, and it does create that confusion with these guys. And it just, the other teams certainly recognize it. And listen, the Habs survived it, thank God, for the goaltending, because, you don't have Dobes in there. I'm not saying the other kid couldn't do the job, but you don't have a goalie that's as hot as he is, as focused as he is. You don't get out of that round.
Yeah,
get out of the first round.
The Hurricanes is going to be 11 days off between games. They've had a lot of time to scout the Canadiens and what they do in their defensive zone. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out in game one. But Knuckles, when you're talking about the goaltending, Rick Dobes during the playoffs, 2.52 goals against average, 910 save percentage. He's 6-0 after losses with a 1.77 goals against average and a 942 save percentage. What's impressed you most about this kid, just the way he's handled himself through this run?
Just his ability to meet a challenge. I mean, he's a type of character that thrives on, if you want, a little bit of adversity, or when he hasn't performed or got the result that he would like to have, he finds a way to get it back. And this tells you a lot about the character of a goaltender, his ability to respond to maybe not a good result, and how he comes back and how aggressive and focused and determined he is to make the difference to help his team. And he always talks about his team. He always talks about how he really wants to help them find a way to win when things are not going that well. And he responds, and he's done it all playoff, and hopefully he'll continue. I'm worried a little bit that he's maybe running out of gas, but according to him, he can play another 40 games. And, he's a true hard-nosed character guy that he delivers when the pressure's on. And that's a huge attribute for a guy especially in that position.
Well, he said after Game 7 he took it personal that he got pulled out in Game 6 after giving up 6 goals. And then he said he also liked the Buffalo fans chanting his name. He said he fed off it, and he thanked the Buffalo fans for that. He said he enjoys the role of being the villain. When you have a guy like that behind, and he also seemed to keep his emotions in check more, Knuckles, even when he got run over there. That third period, I don't know how that wasn't goalie interference, but he seemed to not be as emotional as he was in the previous games.
Yeah, he is able to snap. It's like being hypnotized. All of a sudden, they snap you out of it, right? This kid gets so focused, and I think his biggest attribute, other than he's good positionally. He is a battler. He will do anything to stop that puck. He gets in front of it. He stays big. And if he has to go small, it's usually diving for the puck, trying to stop in the crease. We saw it last night. He spreads those legs. He can split like no one and get those pads out. When guys pull a move on him and deke him, he's been incredible. And to me, his biggest attribute is the focus, and he's a battler. He battles all the time.
He certainly does. So apart from Dobes, Rick, which player or players impressed you the most on the Canadiens during that series?
I gotta go with our good friend Newhook. He's managed to find ways to make the difference and played pretty damn well. And he's a guy that has got them this far in the playoffs, because he is doing it 5-on-5, and he's bringing a game that I didn't think that I would see out of him, and I'm happy for him, and he's getting the results that are helping the team.
7 goals in 14 playoff games, Knuckles. He's played well since he came back from that broken ankle. I think if one thing his teammates might learn from that overtime goal is shoot the friggin' puck, right? I mean, that wasn't a great shot. The puck was wobbling a bit, but it went in, right?
Yeah, you throw it at the net. That's, I don't think there's an NHL team that ever went into overtime and said, guys, hang on to the puck, make plays. All they say is put the puck at the net and go to the net. That's all. That's all you hear.
And Jake Evans did that on that play, right?
Yeah, he did. He went right to the net. And Alex, again, the puck was on edge. He curled it a little bit and snapped it. There you go, in the net. Nice wrist shot. But listen, this kid, right? He come in early, first round pick, wins with Colorado a Stanley Cup. He comes over here. There's certainly an adjustment. You come into a team that is all of a sudden rebuilding, growing, finding their way, and you just come off a Stanley Cup with a team that, they're finished, they're polished. And yeah, you take some good from that. But I think the biggest thing for him coming here, and yeah, dealing with the injury last year, was he got a great start, and then he had the injury come back. He came back big time. But coming in, asked to play center ice, by this coach, making that adjustment, being pretty damn good on faceoffs, great penalty killing, and then the gravy, these Game 7 goals he scored to win, like, hello. So, that's huge. This kid is really, he's brought it up a level. He's rose to the occasion. Marty put, he not put pressure on him, but he said, here you go. Here's what you're going to do. Here's what we want from you. And he's done it. So, it's awesome to see a kid evolve like that. And he's played awesome.
Well, when Hughes acquired him 3 summers ago at the draft, one of the reasons was to speed up the rebuild, right? They figured bringing in a guy with that young in age, but experience would speed it up, similar when they brought in Kirby Dach the year before. But Rick, a guy who's really sped up this rebuild is Lane Hutson. I mean, Kent Hughes said during the midseason news conference, said he never expected him to jump in the way he has and played a point per game in the playoffs, 2 goals, 12 assists in 14 games, averaging 26 minutes of ice time per game. Just what can you say about the way this kid's performed?
Just amazing little player. I just look at his willingness to compete and to battle. He doesn't care who he's up against. He is going in. He's like a little bulldog. He's just going to keep battling and scratching and finding ways to win those one-on-one battles. And his intelligence with the puck under pressure, the way he passes that puck and the way he finds guys, it's just the opposition look at him like, oh, he's going to shoot it. And the next thing you know, he's making that pass through a seam right on the stick of one of his fellow teammates and giving them a chance to score. But everybody was questioning his size. Look at what he's given with the amount of ice time and the situations that he plays, and he doesn't miss a beat. He's down there jumping in offensively, and he's a first man back defensively. And what an addition! And guys like that you bring in, are you're so fortunate to have a guy in your lineup, knowing very well that each and every shift and each and every night he's going to bring something that's going to have a huge effect on wins and losses. And a great kid, smiling, and love to watch him go.
Marty St. Louis likes to say, Knuckles, that Nick Suzuki drives the bus for this team. 13 points in 14 playoff games. He certainly looks like he's doing that against Buffalo. And just how much do you think his teammates are feeding off of him?
Listen, I think, when you look at the line as a whole, they've struggled, right? But still, look at the points he's putting up. Like Nick is right there. So yeah, I think his wingers have struggled. There's no question about it. They both struggled, and that puts him in a tough spot. But he's constantly trying to get the puck to Cole. Cole had 5 shots last night. 5 shots on net. What saves that goaltender made on him? He's getting some chances. Hopefully that's going to break for him this series. You can just put the 2 rounds behind you, and now it's time. They can start fresh here and regroup and hopefully have a bigger impact on this series. They're going to need them. And eventually, you just hope they come through. But Nick certainly stays even-keeled, not too high, not too low. I think that bodes well for the team. And the coach is the same, right? The coach is the same. So guys get this. They're able to park things and then move on. Hutson last night, 31 minutes, right? Like crazy. And I was on Spit and Chicklets yesterday, and they were talking about Hutson. So what did you think when he came in? I thought he was going to get killed, this kid.
Yeah.
So for me, defensively, there's the biggest surprise because how smart he is, and he takes the puck from big guys. He can't overpower guys. He uses it here. Mm-hmm. He outsmarts guys, and he's so quick. And I talked about how you watch him now. His legs do things that normal legs don't do. They just don't. They don't. Normal legs don't do what his legs do, and it screws so many people up. He is a treat to watch. I mean, Montreal, man, it's like watching this team like going to a 5-star restaurant and having the best meal. Like, there's so much talent, and it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch.
It's almost like he's running on his skates when he takes off, Hutson. It's so funny to watch. You mentioned Slafkovsky and Caulfield. Disappointing. I mean, 9 points for Slafkovsky, including 4 goals, but only 1 point at even strength in the playoffs. That's an assist. And Caulfield also 9 points, 4 goals. He's -7. Slafkovsky's -8. Only 1 even strength point for Caulfield, and that's a goal. But a couple of guys, Nick, who have they're not point producers, but Philip Deneau and Jake Evans. Deneau's 57.9% on faceoffs in the playoffs. Evans 58.5% and +9. These 2 guys, you need these guys, these centermen, to win in the playoffs, don't you?
Really key to success of any team when you see that what they bring in the face-off circle and their intelligence defensively, and in tight games, you want those guys on the ice. They love and thrive on their positional play and their ability to make good decisions with the puck. And you win with guys like that. And very happy for Dano that came back. And, there was a question mark whether or not he was going to help the team out. Obviously, it's a huge plus to have him in the group, knowing how to play. Evans does his thing, killing penalties. They've got a good mix of guys that are smart enough to understand how they need to play and how to play certain situations when things get tight. And you win with guys like that.
Dano's keeping that pizza tradition alive that he did in 2021 when we went to the final, bringing pizza to Mike Matheson after the game 7. Knuckles, Dano's the kind of centerman I'm sure when you were playing you would have loved to have him as a winger.
Yeah, I would have loved to have him as a centerman.
Well, as a centerman of you as a
Yeah,
winger, I mean, yeah.
for sure. As
Yeah.
a winger, to have him as a centerman, I had it in Cabo,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Cabo again, Selke Trophy, could score, could block shots, kill penalties. Cabo did it all. Incredible player. So yeah, as a winger, it's great playing with guys like that. You know, as long as you do your job on the wall in your end of the rink, watch your coverages, and the puck's coming out. You know he's going to come up with it. D, like I said, back in our day, we had great D that battled, and we had a great system that we played in our own end. But having a guy like him, invaluable, face-offs, the leadership. I remember when he first came in here, Bergevin making that deal to get him, and it was a big deal. A good Shane coming in, and we saw him develop, we saw him come along, and then we lose him, and then get him back. And there was some question: is he done? Is he? Boy, he's been awesome for this team.
Well, Rick, on the defense, Marty basically went with 5 defense in Game 7. Jacky had less than 2 minutes of ice time. Noah Dobson, coming back from that broken thumb, he only has 1 assist in the playoffs so far. He's averaging almost 22 minutes of ice time. What have you thought about the way he's played and just how difficult it might be for him playing with that injury?
Yeah, we don't really know the extent of the injury other than I would love to see him be a little more engaged physically. He's a big guy. Everybody else there on the blue line is really using their physical play to their advantage, and he's the kind of guy that I think he can push a little bit harder with the physical play. And let's not forget he's the kind of guy that you don't really notice that often. I mean, he had a good regular season. He's trying to get his game back, if you will, and I think his game is about being a little more aggressive. I'd like to see him, and again, he's feeling his way along. He can contribute offensively. He's got a pretty good shot, but again, I don't know the degree of the injury and whether or not this is playing a part in just his overall play. But he'll be okay. He's a smart player. He's a big body, and he plugs up a lot of space, blocking shots and critical situations. So he'll be fine. But I wish I could see him get a little more involved physically and push some guys around out there.
Knuckles St. Louis made 1 roster change for Game 7. He brought in Oliver Kapanen to replace Joe Veleno. Were you surprised he brought Kapanen in instead of maybe Brendan Gallagher might have brought a spark for Game 7?
Not so much. I mean, the kid did have 22 goals, right? And, he's going to get an opportunity. He's younger, probably more durable when you think of a Game 7. Fresh, ready to go. I think that being a young kid, it was important to put him in there. I love Brendan, but listen, he made the right move. Apparently, they won the hockey game. So, we're talking about Dobson and Rick talking about physicality, but I'd be remiss if we didn't mention Caden Goalie. This kid has applied himself. He has brought that physical game. Yeah, I mean, he was knocking guys on their ass. Like, he is engaged. The best I've seen him play since he got here. No question about it. And he's stepping up at the right time.
Rick, what have you liked about Goulet? I know he said he likes to be a prick on the ice. He's the nicest kid you'd ever meet off the ice, but he's done that.
He's banging bodies. He's involved in every aspect of the defensive zone play. He's making great decisions with the puck. And, this is a compliment to that group back there. They've got some, even though they're rotating 5, they've got some good chemistry amongst them, their group. They're able to make good plays in simple plays and complement each other in each style of play. And Caden Gooley, he's Johnny on the spot. He's hacking and whacking in front of the net. He's moving bodies. And the opposition are aware when he's on the ice because he is coming at you and he's coming hard. And I think it's really key for all of the defense, and they've done a hell of a job doing it, is their ability to make simple plays, not get themselves in a situation where they're caught up ice, they're pinching when they shouldn't be pinching. So the overall stability of that group right now is allowing them to play generally, aside from a few occasions where they get running around a little bit, they're able to patch up some of the problem areas down in their zone, which is, around the front of the net and battling in the corners and finding ways to win one-on-one battles, which that's what comes down to wins and losses, is being able to out-battle the opposition. They're doing a pretty good job of that.
Well, that's it for this week's Hockey Inside Out show. Some exciting times ahead with the Canadiens back in the Eastern Conference Final for the first time since 2021. We'll have a bonus episode coming up over the next day or two, previewing the series with our predictions also. Game 2 against the Hurricanes will be Saturday in Carolina before the series comes to Montreal for games 3 and 4 next Monday and Wednesday. In case you didn't know, the Hockey Inside Out show is available now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the Hockey Inside Out YouTube channel.